Okay, perfect. We're gonna go ahead and get started. So, welcome everyone to today's Berkeley Pharma Tech Foundation Speaker Series seminar. My name is Tiffany Terry, and I am a volunteer with the foundation, and we're really delighted to have all of you join us today. The Berkeley Pharma Tech Foundation is dedicated to increasing access for scientists and entrepreneurs in biotech through education, mentorship, and professional opportunities. Through this speaker series, we bring together industry leaders to share insights on cutting edge biotech innovation, entrepreneurship, commercialization, and career development. Our goal is to foster a community where scientists and builders learn from real experiences and grow together. Follow us on LinkedIn for updates and stay tuned for upcoming seminars and conferences. Feel free to reach out to Van Loan, who is the president of the foundation, to explore more ways to connect with our mission. So today we are thrilled to welcome our speaker, Keith Heron. Keith is a serial biotech entrepreneur and CEO of Nuceptive Labs and an MIT Langer Lab alumnus with 3 successful company exits. With more than 75 biotechnology patents and recognition as a fellow of the National Academy of Inventors, Keith brings a wealth of experience in innovation, company building, and translating scientific breakthroughs into successful ventures. So please welcome me. I'm sorry, please join me in welcoming Keith.
Thank you all for taking the time to learn a little bit about the perspective that I can bring as a material science inventor turned biotechnology entrepreneur to maybe different paths that each of you is thinking of walking down or maybe is already doing it. One clarification question before I get going is I see that this is being recorded, which is fine. Where is the recording going? How is it being distributed? The amount of information I give may vary based on that data point.
Yeah, so the recording is going to be uploaded to our website
So
and to YouTube.
it'll be online and on YouTube.
Yes.
Okay. Um, Totally fine. And then maybe when we get towards the end of it, if you want to do a Q&A, I don't know if you want to keep that public or not, but I'll just go on public information from now. And it's really nice to meet all of you. So, I guess I'm on my fourth company now, which is in skin contact, low pain medical adhesives, which turns out 1 in 2 people get injured by a Band-Aid in their lifetime, whether that's in a hospital or at home. And the most, call it in need users of soft stick to skin adhesives tend to be those with chronic care needs. And so a major industry consortium in 2025 ranked medical adhesive related skin injury and the solution to that through better adhesives as the number 9 problem to solve in all of medicine, which includes cancer therapy and disease prevention, you name it. And so we're excited at Nuceptive to be bringing society, I think, a much needed solution for a pain point in many cases, a real medical problem that many of us have, or at least can understand. But in terms of the background and where I came from, I'd like to give a little bit more information on myself and some of the different companies I've done. And given that this is going to be recorded and put online, I'll be concise and then happy to answer any more maybe specific questions. I'll have my contact information here at the end and happy to do that. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get going. Do we have a screen share working?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm first a parent. I have a 5-year-old boy, a 3-year-old boy, a 1-year-old boy, and a newborn. And I come to you from Augusta, Georgia. My newborn was born on the Friday of the Masters in 2026. And so Michael, Gabriel, Jacob, and Daniel, and by far my greatest joy right now is being a father of four kids. Uh, and my wife and I are working really hard to raise four boys that hopefully will be entrepreneurs one day. So, a little bit more about my background. This is kind of a visual CV that I put together for myself. I've been a part of five different companies, three of which have been acquired, two of which are in the works right now. And then was named a fellow for National Academy of Inventors in 2025. But I kind of just started as a student that did research at Georgia Tech. I worked under an entrepreneurial professor at Georgia Tech in 2006 named Ken Gall, who has started a number of companies. And Ken actually left Georgia Tech and moved to Duke University over probably 10 years ago. But he's a serial entrepreneur that's built excellent medical device types of initiatives. One of his current initiatives is called Restore 3D. I think there's some public information about Restore that it's going really well, but uh, Ken has seen a number of exits that have been great, and so I ended up doing a PhD in biomedical engineering, split between Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory and Texas A&M University under Duncan Maitland, who has built a very successful medical device company called Shape Memory Medical out of a university and then ended up in Bob Langer's lab at MIT, the founder of, we think about 40 different companies over the years, which involve controlled release drug delivery, novel therapeutics, some medical technology as well. And and so in 2016, I left the Langer lab and started a 3D printing company called Polysix Technologies that was in novel materials for 3D printing. And give a little bit more color on that, but we quickly found a home in aerospace manufacturing, and Polysix was acquired in 2019 by private equity. And so the company, I think it's public record, created over 150 jobs in Ohio in 2025. It really is a great manufacturing solution for the manufacture of complex aerospace components. And that experience was a learning experience for me as a CEO, moving from the lab to raising capital and then eventually exiting a business to a Wall Street owned private equity backed company was a good learning experience, and it was a strong outcome. And then right when COVID hit, I started a rapid diagnostics company called Virex Health that was acquired by a public pharma company in 2022. Virex was a pandemic motivated diagnostics play, very different from my first company in aerospace. We turned a prick your finger test into for diabetics into a protein detection platform. And that technology was ripe for acquisition during the pandemic because it met unmet needs in the market from a technology standpoint. Rapid, quantitative, low cost, high sensitivity diagnostics assays with the PCR level sensitivity just didn't exist. And so not at scale anyway. And so we were able to successfully exit Virex Health. Our exit is public record on the Securities and Exchange Commission's website. Um, and then since 2022, I have worked on getting involved with multiple companies. I was chairman of the board of Imidex, which was a low pain, Imidex, which was a chest X-ray FDA cleared algorithm using artificial intelligence to find stage one lung nodules, and was involved in the restructuring of the management team at Imidex and then eventually driving the exit of it uh, in 2025. Uh, Big picture though, I'm very driven to continue to build technology companies that solve massive problems in society. I don't necessarily care where the technology comes from. It can come from a great university in the case of my self-amplifying RNA company, Keelicon, now that I was the first investor in. It can come from my back porch, which is the case for Nuceptive, the company I'm currently CEO of in low pain medical adhesives. But the big overlying point here is that I think society is highly inefficient in terms of how any change ever takes place, even if it's common sense. And it takes individuals that really want to push on society, I guess using their own individual approach to make any type of difference or solve problems. And so it's very much the founder will to exist that's going to be the difference, not so much how good a technology is for the most part, or how much money a market's saying something's worth. Um, a couple other just background points on me that may be interesting. I looked at the White House Fellowship in 2020. I was a regional finalist, and the only reason I didn't reapply for that in 2021 was that my company Virex was going well, and I spoke with some people in the White House in 2020 that were just saying that they thought probably professionally selling a second company was better for me than going to do a year. But historically, the White House Fellowship Program is an excellent one, and some of you may be that may be a great next step for you. I think regardless of the specific administration, what that opportunity gives you is when you're at a peak point in your career, early career, trying to figure out what to do next, going and getting in the middle of a global power center that's very much out of your, if you're a technical person, technical domain, will reshape your perspective on things. And so I think had I not had a second company that was going very well, I probably would have aggressively reapplied in 2021 for the White House Fellowship. And so just want to give a little bit of a peg for that. Uh, I was highly inspired by my advisor at MIT, Bob Langer, for commercialization of technology. And Bob's model is largely aligned with some of the best people in the world to try to understand what problems should be solved in the life sciences. Second, bring the best people, young people in the world around the table to try to solve those problems. And then third, fund those solutions into companies with the best investors in the world. And so working with excellent people to identify problems that, if solved, could be massively impactful to society, but also multi-billion dollar outcomes, attracting the best people in the world to actually solve problems, and then working with the best investors in the world to scale them. Harvard Business School does a nice case on the Langer Lab back from 2004, so this isn't a new thing. People know Moderna, one of Bob's successful companies that he founded, but the truth is there's dozens more. And so what I'm working to do is a similar initiative to what I've seen the Langer Lab do, but I'm trying to put a little bit more of a modern flair to it. There may not be PhD postdoc pathways for everyone I work with. In fact, I'll give examples of high school students I work with that have ended up in venture capital skipping college that are very reasonable pathways also. One day I think I'd like to be in the tenure track faculty or tenured faculty set up at the right university one day, probably after my current companies have reached a good home. So one day I would like to kind of emulate what Bob has done. Uh, so little backstory on my first business. I got this is all in the from a Boston Globe article you could find public record, but I got a call from someone that worked at a major U.S. fast food company back in around 2012 about trying to innovate around the waste stream of this fast food company, which was largely styrofoam cups and citrus peels. And was challenged of, hey, if you can invent something new around citrus peels and styrofoam, or really anything waste related to this specific company, and maybe you could build a business. And so what ended up becoming the establishment of my first company uh, was a result of my dumpster diving at a major US fast food company, identifying its biggest waste products by volume and mass. And then here's where science comes in, inventing a performance nanocomposite material that was made by dissolving styrofoam and delaminating citrus oil, adding a polythiol, a co-monomer to the mix that was miscible, photopolymerizing a mixture of about 65 to 70% thiolene monomer and 30 to 35% styrofoam and creating a nanocomposite material, polymer reinforced polymer. Wood, by the way, is a polymer reinforced polymer, so kind of wood inspired approach that ended up on the cover of one of the top materials journals in the world, Advanced Materials, made me a finalist of the 2014 Collegiate Inventors Competition, and kind of laid the groundwork to the work I did in the MIT Langer Lab. All was praised by Karen Woolley publicly, who's in the National Academy of Sciences and I think now engineering. Uh, this whole invention was a result of industry approaching me while I was a PhD student, and I leveraged that invention in the Langer Lab at MIT to build uh, a citrus-derived biomaterial scaffolding platform that had unique properties. The literature would show longer linear degradation, things that could stick around in the body for 8 to 14 months, but slowly degrade, that were elastomers. Sometimes it's hard to get soft materials not to just balloon up or fall apart. So we had a nice kind of moderate approach based out of citrus materials. And then I took my citrus materials to industry in 2016, thinking, oh, well, I got these materials, good IP on them. We're going to take them to a wide range of industries. And it turns out the industry that was only seriously interested was aviation. And so my first business was acquired in 2019, as I mentioned. Here's a public record of new jobs that that business contributed to. There's a lot that I'm not saying because of confidentiality reasons, but improving manufacturing in the jet engine space was what my first company did. And there's some really good people that kept working on that business after it was acquired that have obviously driven a lot of this initiative, new jobs, and I think this specific invention set will be highly impactful for the manufacturers and designers of jet engine parts for decades to come. And I learned a ton in that initiative. But then this happened. So March of 2020 hits. I had exited my first company, was not working at the time, and reached out to a famous professor at Boston University named Mark Grindstaff, who is now my repeat business partner. Mark is distinguished professor at Boston University. Actually, above that, he's a Warren professor there, so one of the top maybe 8 to 11 faculty members there. He's invented $1 billion drug for lung cancer. He sold a company to Stryker for 220 million. And frankly, I had nothing to do. I was locked up in my, at that time, apartment in Boston. His lab was about a 2-minute walk from where I lived. And I just said, hey, you want free labor from a former Langer Lab postdoc that just sold a company and was happy with the outcome. And we started this company, Virex Health, around the idea of taking a 1 cent prick your finger diabetes test and turning it into a COVID test. And we probably the critical learning for Virex was we started doing invention in March of 2020. We incorporated the company in November of 2020, November 2020. By April of 2021, it was clear that the cost of getting a new type of test to market only for COVID didn't make a lot of sense. But the value of our assay as a diagnostics platform, especially a high sensitivity quantitative one that was portable and low cost and fast, was actually good. So we didn't pivot. What we did was we engaged industry and said, are you interested in partnering with us? We're not going to bring a full test to market. You can invest in us or you can acquire us for the data that we have here and the potential that that data will manifest into a really powerful package of medical products. And industry listened. And so on February 1st, 2022, Virex Health closed the sale of a really, really sensitive, low cost PCR level sensitivity test that was quantitative. We had about 6 different markers that we showed our test would work for at PCR level sensitivity. And um, we actually got a grant right after we were acquired, so the buyer didn't even need to fund certain aspects of our business post-acquisition. So this asset, I think, has been a very wise purchase for the buyer who's had its own challenges after they acquired us. I think our asset inside them was a solid stabilizing point for their company. And so I learned a lot with my second business around working with a great team, working with founders that were also experienced. My founding team at Virex had all been, I was the least experienced founder there as a second time CEO. So it was a very efficient operation for the founding team. And it almost honestly was executed in a very just step by step by step. Everything we needed to do was done effectively, and so I think that was a testament to the engineering and scientific team here that was highly motivated to solve a problem during a pandemic in a small amount of time that resulted in the successful outcome here. And uh, so I got brought into a company called Imendex in 2023 after it got FDA clearance for a chest X-ray AI software product that could detect lung nodules from boring, low quality, sometimes this poor is shown here, chest X-rays. So call it AI lung cancer for healthy people. It's kind of what Imendex was. And this was a really interesting learning experience because the value proposition of the business was pretty high. It could potentially 1.5x the total number of lung cancer patients in the U.S. healthcare system. Its adoption was lean in that its software, FDA cleared software algorithm plugged into an existing radiology software platform pretty much at any hospital. But it's more complicated when you think through all the different stages of care that a new cancer patient would need to receive. Not all of these are profitable, and sifting through the economic case for a buyer was a great learning experience for us. It's public record. We brought in Wes Bolson, who to be the CEO of Imendex, and who's raised over $900 million as a serial CEO himself. And then the assets of Imendex were acquired in 2025. That's public record. And I think the biggest learning, which I very much am using right now from Imendex, is that hospitals have a lot of interest that are aligned with state governments, federal governments. Engaging hospitals is not like selling a hot dog on the side of the street. It's not just a pure free market. There's much political complicating factors involved. And it's a full-time job of navigating bureaucracies. You can build excellent businesses around healthcare solutions, but it's not as simple as just saying, I'm going to build a better mousetrap and sell it to hospitals who, then even if doctors and nurses want to use that mousetrap. I think having a strong understanding of state politics is a very critical learning from this company. And you don't have to be partisan to understand the realities of what's public record for how different hospitals are set up. And I think I'm doing another medical company after this experience, which tells me that my learnings were positive, not negative, but it's a lot of work. And so just if you're thinking about starting a company where a hospital is your customer, you may want to talk to someone who's actually done that before because it's not as simple as one might think. So, public record that Imidex's algorithm was sold in 2025. I think the founding team, the investors, were very happy to see this exit, and so I can transition now from what past initiatives I work on to current ones. And maybe this will be a little bit more fun to talk about also some of the stuff I'm currently working on. So My company, Nuceptive, my low pain adhesives company, actually started on my back porch in Augusta, Georgia. And I was approached by MIT or people affiliated with MIT in 2022 after an investor had reached out to them looking for someone to invent a low pain skin contact adhesive for a very specific type of medical product. And so at this point, I had sold a couple companies. I had the ability to buy chemicals. My wife was patient enough to let me set up a back porch lab. And so I literally started whipping up adhesive formulations on my back porch in Augusta, Georgia. And this invention resulted in what you see now. Granted, this is a new version of it that is very much not back porch chemistry. An adhesive that is starts stickier than Solventum 3M's Tegaderm, but does not increase in adhesion to skin over time, and pretty much asymptotes out about 1.5x of its initial strength on skin versus current standard of care in medical technology. Many of those adhesives actually react with your sweat and some of the chemistry in that, and you'll see a increase to infinity of adhesion on different surfaces over time. And then there's some silicones that are out there that just simply are not that sticky, and so they're great. Our pain profile comes out about that of a post-it note, and when you talk to my 4-year-old, all right, Michael, what's on your arm? We're gonna take it off. Did that hurt? What did that audio play?
It did.
So you heard it from the 4-year-old. It in fact does not hurt. So pediatric use cases are of high interest to us. Um, Michael. And I think for this technology, that Nuceptive, we raised about $4 million. We have we made 400 meters of our adhesive last week in a scale roll-to-roll process. We're trying to find the best first use case. It's likely to be pediatric film dressings or maybe direct-to-consumer bandages, but we're doing aggressive customer discovery with doctors, nurses. I was just at lunch with lifer administrator of hospital purchasing, and I have a major hospital executive meeting this Friday coming up, trying to understand where our technology would work best. I think that learning how to take a technology platform, unfortunately, a solution looking for a problem is not a great place to be in. Versus, we were asked by investors to solve a problem, which was medical adhesives injuring 1 in 2 people that use them in their lifetime. That's 4 billion people, that are going to be impacted by the current standard of care in a negative way. So I actually think we're not a solution looking for a problem. We solved a problem that was brought to us, but now figuring out which one to solve in the most efficient and profitable manner is kind of the calculus that we're working on. And we have good biocompatibility data in terms of ISO 10935, rabbit irritation and guinea pig sensitization 60-day wear studies. So everything looks pretty good for this company. Trying to either move the business into a significant partnership or raise capital right now, and we have promising leads on both fronts. I tend to think the best outcome for the founders and investors is growing some market share in direct to consumer and B2B medical products revenue, growing some sales, in other words, and then potentially looking at M&A after that. So one more point, and then we can maybe open it up for Q&A. So while I was working on the initial technology for Nuceptive, my business partner, Professor Mark Grindstaff from Boston University, was sitting on my couch in Augusta, Georgia, and he got a text from one of his students who said, "Hey, I think I've changed the world here." And that was in 2023. And the result of that body of work was a next gen self-amplifying RNA technology that was published in Nature Biotechnology, featured in Forbes, that allows you to lower the dose of a therapeutic for immunotherapy or vaccine use cases or potentially protein therapy, different types of autoimmune treatment, lower the dose by about 100x and see a 10 to 50x, even as much as 100 or 500x better result, largely defined as quantitative protein detection and durability over time, also somewhat defined as low toxicity, low immunogenicity. One of the classic shortfalls of self-amplifying RNA is high toxicity because you're making little factories of uh, of cells. You're turning them into little factories to make new things with the instructions that the saRNA sequence is telling them. And our specific novel chemistry, which is a substituted mRNA sequence, resulted in pretty much disproving 30 years of literature. And so, little bit of data on Keelicon. I was the first investor in this company, which is a great honor to have had the chance to do that. It's Boston based. It shares office space with Nuceptive. So that's really rewarding to kind of have something I founded and it's something I invested in right there together. Um, Strong data on durability of self-amplifying RNA versus mRNA over time. We're talking 1 to 200x higher expression of protein in this case. I think we're talking about protein used for cytokine response for immunotherapy. We also show very strong selectivity or specificity for tumor expression versus mRNA. And so when you look at 45x stronger quantitative expression of what we're trying to express to trigger an immunotherapy response for solid tumor reduction, and it's 45x better than the best mRNA comparison that we've seen, this is a compelling narrative. And so Keelicon is looking to do a first in human trial soon for our immunotherapy platform. And one thing that I think has been very impressive to different experts, investors that we've talked to, is our ability to very much turn off our self-amplifying RNA approach in places we don't want it to be. And so, happy to go into more detail about Keelicon right now. We are actively looking for a first in human cancer center partnership. Uh, it's looking like certain international jurisdictions may make the most sense, but we're very much a US company. And if there's a cancer center in the US that makes sense, we certainly would like to look at that. I think once we get first in human for the cancer side of what we built, um, the sky's the limit for the capital opportunities for moving farther down the oncology drug side for uh, solid tumor self-amplifying RNA treatment. What we have complements well with checkpoint inhibitors, and so the portion of the population that checkpoint inhibitors didn't work for, well, we do, and we would complement that well. So that's the angle we're working. From a vaccine standpoint, what's public record is the US Army publicly presented on the Ebola vaccine they built out of our technology, and it's extremely compelling. And then we've built a Lyme vaccine out of our technology too to just demonstrate it, that could move the number of Lyme injections from 4 to 2 compared to what the current leading Lyme vaccine standard of care is, which is kind of a developmental vaccine that exists on the market. Um, so we're trying to partner out our vaccine side and grow our cancer side of this company. I think the last of what I'd like to share is around. I was asked to speak for about 40 minutes, so we're at 36. Is my broader vision for life sciences entrepreneurship. And so, what I really want to do, these companies that I'm working on, specifically Nuceptive, need to work and they need to scale and they need to get to a right home. Keelicon needs to make a major impact on cancer immunotherapy and vaccines to the extent that the science allows it to. But longer term, what I'm really looking to do is mentor young people to solve problems and help them start their own companies. And so I kind of view this combined compounding of PhD graduates, postdocs, grant funding, startup investment, additional startup investment, job creation as, and then eventually students that are at the high school level or K to 12 level getting into more elite academic institutions is kind of a one matrix where we're going, they say academia is going from 0 to 1, and then early stage startups are 1 to 10, and then commercialization is 10 to 100. I actually don't really see it that way. I see 0 to 10 as the work of academia and early stage startups. And then 10 to 100 is more professional, corporate. HR sometimes drives 10 to 100 more than scientific innovation and operating in empty space. Certain companies that are out there that go from 10 to 100, or now we're seeing 100 to 1,000. Those are outliers. I think in general, um, it's one and the same to get something from 0 to 1 and 1 to 10. And so I kind of lay out a compelling compounding case whereby just before 2050, I'd like to have had 40 PhD graduates, 100 peer-reviewed publications. I think I'm at 75 patents now, so get to 500. But more than that, enough grant funding to continue to do high-risk research, but only for the purpose of solving major problems in society, which means raising billions of dollars for startup companies and additional investment. So that number could be even 10x higher. At least in terms of technology I invented and getting my first business to where it is now, I'm north of 180 jobs created, at least through an invention. No other people had to manage those jobs and continue to work. So I don't have 180 employees working for me right now, but there's no reason why I don't think I could create 5,000 plus jobs over the course of my career. And if one company ends up being something I run for my whole career, that may have 100,000 jobs under it. But just for the sake of what I'm looking to do, it's invent, build early stage companies, mentor young people, move technology forward. And then, yeah, probably operate one company like I'm operating Inceptive right now as the CEO. Three examples of people that have worked for me. Um, I met Kyra Yasa. She was a high school student when I spoke at something in Miami. She sort of solved one of my MIT postdoctoral problems that I had forgotten I had even worked on. And so I was impressed a high school student solved a problem I hadn't publicized. So she ended up interning for my first company, Virex. And then when we sold Virex, she paid off her student debt with her stock options and then ended up moving to the UAE, helped start a venture capital firm there that raised, as I understand, about $50 million. And actually, she helped expand that to Saudi Arabia. Now she's back in LA running her own company. One of my recent interns, Jyotika, who's a first-gen Pakistani immigrant, is going to Georgia Tech next year to major in material science and engineering. And uh, she built financial models that I used to present one of my company's actual pro forma to a CFO of a multi-billion dollar company, and it was well received. And then one of my other interns, Porter, who was accepted to some excellent institutions this year and has a great path at the top scholarship program. This is public record of University of Georgia. Uh, he functioned for me better than MIT, Sloan, and Harvard Business School interns I had over the years. And he was a 17-year-old high school student. I think AI helps with that somewhat, but AI slop will get you pretty much invited not to come back for a lot of things. And so I think people that know how to use the tools that are available to them will succeed. And so all these people started working with me when they were 17. All of them have either moved on to go independently operate at elite levels or are on track uh, to do that. And I want to 100x this type of initiative where I showed you, I started the presentation showing that I have 4 boys and trying to carve out paths for all of them to go contribute to society. So, you can reach out to me directly here. This is my contact information, and happy to answer any further questions after that. So I'll stop sharing them.
Thank you, Keith. That was amazing. And your little boy is here. I remember when we talked, you said that your wife was pregnant. You're actually going to find out what you were having the next day. So congratulations on that. If anyone has any questions, please go ahead and unmute yourself and you can ask Keith a question.
Are we still recording?
Yes. Would you prefer us to do the question and answer not recorded? That's okay.
Not recorded would be preferred.
Okay, sure, no problem.